Hey everyone, welcome to Tangled Threads. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let's go. I've always been a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy, while my wife, Lisa, is a fan of brightly colored wigs, fantasy fabrics, and weapons made of foam. She's a cosplayer, and I've always supported her interest even though I'm far from being a cosplayer myself. Our house, over time, has started resembling a dressing room from some eccentric off-Broadway show, every corner stacked with costumes representing characters I could never name. One sunny July afternoon, we were at a comic convention in San Francisco, dubbed Confrancisco. I shuffled through the sea of attendees, the overwhelming scent of latex, and the clamor of voices mixing with the frantic pitches of vendors. My wife, in stark contrast, was in her element. Dressed as Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, she was the center of many adoring eyes, including mine. As we were wading through the energetic, colorful ocean of Confrancisco, a figure caught Lisa's eye from afar. A distinct character with silver hair and a stoic aura emerged from the crowd. Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher, a character Lisa adored. This Geralt, however, was different. He was tall and lanky, contrasting the hunky, muscled figure Geralt was known to be. His skin was a rich, dark hue, a stark contrast to the character's canonical Northern European appearance. But his costume was meticulously crafted. The Witcher's emblem, a silver wolf medallion, hung around his neck, catching the artificial light in a dramatic display. His silver wig was styled impeccably, mimicking Geralt's unkempt locks. The leather armor he wore bore detailed designs, signifying the hard work that must have gone into its creation. Lisa, her eyes lighting up in recognition, nudged me and pointed at him. "Henry, look! It's Geralt!" She was practically bouncing on her heels, her enthusiasm infectious even in my state of indifference. She rushed toward him, pulling me along. "Hey, Geralt!" she called out, her voice filled with excitement. The man turned around, a friendly grin spreading across his face. He was truly in character. Even his icy blue contacts mimicked Geralt's feline gaze. "Well met," he replied, his voice deep and husky, a stark contrast to his slender frame. "Do you mind if we take a picture?" Lisa asked, her hazel eyes twinkling with anticipation. She was always thrilled to see her favorite characters brought to life, even if the person underneath didn't physically resemble them. "Of course, milady." The man bowed slightly in character, wrapping an arm around Lisa as I took their picture. The vivid colors of the convention hall, the energy of the crowd, and the brightness in Lisa's eyes, all captured in a single frame. It was a moment of pure fan joy, soon to be tainted by events that would follow. After a few more rounds of the event, Lisa started to fatigue. We found an oasis in the chaos, a small seating area where we could rest. Lisa excused herself to use the restroom. As I sat there, half engrossed in my phone, I caught a glimpse of her sleek, red-haired figure veering towards the family bathroom instead of the women's. Moments later, Geralt followed suit. A knot twisted in my stomach. I didn't confront them immediately, choosing instead to stew in silent anger and disbelief. A week later, I decided it was time for a confrontation, but not in the typical way you might think. When Lisa returned home from work, she was greeted by the sight of me lying in bed. I wasn't just in bed, though. I was in bed, dressed as Geralt. I'd spent hours watching YouTube tutorials to get the makeup right, and I'd hired a costume from a professional. The surprise on her face was satisfying. "Henry, what on earth?" she gasped, her hazel eyes wide with astonishment. I held up a finger, asking her to wait. And then, we proceeded to make love. It was passionate, intense, and different. Afterward, as she lay in my arms, I asked, "So which time was better?" She looked up at me, confusion evident on her face. "What do you mean?" "That day, at Confrancisco," I started, my voice trembling slightly. "You and Geralt in the family bathroom." I felt her tense up, her confusion morphing into realization. "Henry, she began, but I cut her off. "You what? What is it, Lisa?" I questioned. "I only did it because he looked like Geralt. I swear," she exclaimed, tears swelling up in her eyes. "You only did it because he looked like Geralt?" I questioned, a hint of bitterness edging my words. "But other than the clothes, he looked nothing like the character. He didn't have the same skin color, the same body build, nothing. Was it the fantasy? Was it the thrill?" Silence hung heavy between us. She stared at me, her face pale under the dim light. She began to cry, and for the first time in our relationship, I wasn't quick to comfort her. She'd crossed a line, acted out a fantasy without considering the repercussions. My story ends here, but our story? That's still being written. We've had a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, a lot of tears, but in the end, we're both trying. We're trying to rebuild trust, to regain what was lost. I think that's what matters in the end, the willingness to work through it. So, remember this, fellow Redditors. Sometimes people lose themselves in their fantasies, but it's important to remember that every action has consequences, and everyone involved is real with real feelings that can be genuinely hurt. Update. When I last left you all, my wife and I were in the throes of recovery, trying to salvage what was left of our relationship. However, despite our best efforts, we couldn't mend the rift that had grown between us. The trust was shattered, the wound too deep. After several months of painful conversations and futile attempts at therapy, we made the heartbreaking decision to part ways. Fast forward to several weeks after our separation, I found out from a mutual friend that Lisa was going to a local convention happening in LA. It was the same frenzied scene. Fantasy characters brought to life, comic book stalls, and the air buzzing with the excitement of countless fandoms. I knew Lisa would be there, dressed as her favorite character, Wonder Woman. She was still into cosplaying, still a fan of this vivid, imaginative world. This time, though, I decided to play a part too. Donning a disguise as Batman, I transformed myself entirely, not just in costume, but in demeanor. I changed my walk, my voice, my laugh, every detail that could give me away. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked through the event, a myriad of sights and sounds whirling around me. The smell of leather, paint, and the occasional whiff of popcorn filled the air. The sounds of laughter, animated discussions about fandoms, and the chatter of negotiations at the comic stalls created an almost electric atmosphere. I kept my eyes peeled for Lisa amidst the animated crowd. As Batman, I felt a sense of isolation, hidden behind a mask, a disguise that provided an unfamiliar comfort and an uncanny sense of power. When I finally spotted her dressed as Wonder Woman, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There she was, her auburn hair cascading down her shoulders, her eyes sparkling with the same enthusiasm I remembered so vividly. Yet I knew beneath that costume was a woman who had broken my trust, our relationship now a ghost of what it once was. Nevertheless, I pushed those thoughts aside and steeled myself for the encounter. I sauntered over, adjusting my voice to match Batman's characteristic deep, gravelly tone. "Fancy seeing you here, Wonder Woman," I greeted, a smirk playing on my lips beneath the mask. Lisa looked up at me, surprise flickering in her eyes before a smile spread across her face. "Batman, it's always a pleasure." We fell into conversation, talking about the convention, about the characters we were portraying. I was careful not to let any personal information slip, keeping the conversation light and focused on the shared environment. It was a surreal experience, having this exchange with Lisa, yet her not knowing it was me beneath the mask. The role of Batman, usually a solitary figure, suddenly felt all too real in this setting. But it was my determination and the thirst for a much-needed closure that drove me forward, leading to the inevitable climax of our strange reunion at the hotel. Well, this sure is a plot twist worthy of a comic book storyline. The disguised ex-husband returns for a dramatic reveal. Sounds like Batman's taken some cues from Clark Kent with those masterful disguise skills. What do you think? When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.